Hey everybody, welcome to Marriage and Martinis. I'm Adam. Here's Danielle.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, rules, right? So that's what we're talking about here. We're very, what's the word?
Laid back?
Yeah. Like, I didn't have too much, unfortunately, because we could be better about the rules, right? Were you thinking that the whole time that you were going through this? Because I was. And I'm like, what were the rules? Like, what are the rules? Like, I can think of a few, but nothing that's like, we have these set rules for this household and this is the way it is. Like, that doesn't.
I think we have a lot of implied rules more generally about life and your place in the world and, you know, how you interact with those around you. And I think our rules are more broad. We are definitely not as good with the short-term rules.
Yeah, there's we don't have that, like, you know, when you come home, the shoes go here. And like, we have them, but we don't enforce them.
Right.
Right. So we have those rules, but they don't exist. Like,
Yeah.
those aren't our kinds of rules. Maybe they should be, and I'd kind of hope that they would be, or hope they would be.
With a different wife, they would have been.
No, I don't want a different wife.
Okay, but they would have been with a different wife.
Right. No, but I think you make these rules more than me, but they just don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I can make the rules. I can't enforce them.
Right.
I don't have the energy.
I mean, you have the rules of this is where the shoes go. And then that's it. That's the rule.
But I
There's
have friends and family members who are very good at enforcing those rules. And like, their kids know. They come home, their shoes go in the closet or wherever, the mudroom, and they, you know, go and they sit down at the table and they get their homework done before they do anything else, and they have a healthy snack. And I'm just like, please.
It sounds wonderful.
Teach me.
Yeah. I mean, but on the other side of things, we have our implied rules and taught rules. They're not just like implied, like to our kids. This is the way you're supposed to behave, or the way you're supposed to act out in public or with other. We actually, you know, taught these and teach these ongoingly. Is that a word?
No.
But it's implied. You get the right. But we have these things that our kids have followed. Yeah. And I'm proud of for us and for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it makes the our short term is not great as far as like, and the follow through.
Our?
What does that mean?
You said our short term?
What are you doing that I'm not seeing?
No, but I would like them to be.
Oh, okay. That's great. Why don't you just wish it?
Right.
And it'll happen.
Every birthday when I blow up my candles.
Exactly.
I wish for these things.
Right. I know. You wish that they would be a certain way, but I don't see you doing anything to try to make it
actually
happen.
Have to do something?
Exactly.
Oh, that's the problem.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now I get it. All right. I understand. Okay. So, like, rules is a very broad, because, you know, you asked me, you know, were there rules in my household growing up? Like, what does that mean? Like, I was kind of struggling with that a little bit. Like, well, I'll use the same thing. Like, did I take my shoes off when I came home? Those kinds of rules. Or did I have to do my homework when I came home? Like, those are short term, like whatever you just said before.
I think that those are short term rules that instill really good lifelong habits that I'm quite jealous of people who can do that, because I can't as a mom. I don't have it in me.
Are you jealous? Like, do you want that to be?
Hell
or
yeah.
are you just like, oh, who gives a shit?
What? Who doesn't want their kid to come home, put their shoes in the closet, take the dog
Well,
for
you
a
might not
walk,
care.
I care.
I mean, some people
Especially because we have a dog who takes every shoe that's out and hides it somewhere in the house. So when it's time for the kids to find their shoes, we're like, they can be fucking anywhere. Right. We have no idea.
We have one kid who follows the rules.
We do.
Yeah. So Jonah does put his shoes where they're supposed to go.
Does.
And they're there every single morning for him to put on.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so you do want that.
I would love that.
So you're not like who cares?
Well, if you're gonna ask me, like, is that, you know, where is that on my spectrum of things that I want my kids to understand, like, throughout their lives? I think it would make things easier for them. I mean, Mia's going to be living in a dorm next year, and I'm already like feeling so awful for her roommate because
I agree with you.
But maybe they'll put her with somebody who's also
a
slob. Yeah. But those are certain things that I would love them to have those habits instilled in them, but I am unable to follow through. I have a terrible follow through. Like,
do you think that was instilled in you? Like, is that from your upbringing? Is that the way it was when you were growing up?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's also something just in me. I don't have that. I don't know if it's a gene or what. I don't have that. I don't even know. Like, I always say to them, I'm like, put this away. And I'm like, they're like, well, I'm thinking to myself, they don't know where it goes because it doesn't have a home. I'm saying put it away, but I'm not like, it goes here next to next
right,
to
the socks go in this drawer, the pants go in this drawer.
Oh, like, I have that.
Yeah, but do the kids know?
Of course.
Okay, so if you say put it away, they know what that means.
Well, but like, let's say, when like random papers come home or they get something in the mail, or I have a pile. I don't have like people have folders and different drawers. I have one junk drawer and everything gets thrown in there. So there isn't any organization, I guess is the right word. And I do wish that naturally came to me, people who can like come over and just be like, okay, I'm just going to organize. And I think to myself, it's like a magical power.
What are your feelings on junk drawers, by the way? Because
Drunk drawers?
Drunk drawers?
Drunk drawer. Drunk drawers.
Junk drawers.
Junk drawers.
Junk drawers. You think that they should be a thing, right? Like just a drawer that you open and
are there houses that don't have a junk drawer?
I've been to houses where I was so impressed and incredibly jealous where I don't know what I said. Where's a pen? Whatever it was. And they said, it's in that drawer right there. So they said, go ahead, get it out of that drawer. I opened the drawer. It's section, like stamps were in one section, pens were in another, organized notes were in the other
section. And
section.
What else there is? Dead bodies in the closet.
Right, exactly.
No, I of course, I would love to have, everything in its place. Like everything needs a home. None of that works for me.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure you out after all these years. So you're saying, yeah, you want those things, but it's just too much work to actually make them happen.
No, it's not too much work. Oh. I literally cannot do it. I can't. I don't know. It's something in my brain, and I don't know if it's a spatial thing or some kind of it's like a mental block. I'll look at a room and I'll literally be like, I'll see clutter everywhere, and I'll be like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to, make the color coded folders and keep that as a thing. I've tried. I've had professional organizers come in, and I've like done it on my own, and it never sticks ever, because I'm telling you, it is something in my brain that I don't have.
You want it, but you can't do it.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I understand. Yeah, going back to rules in the household, I guess this is all, I don't know how it relates to short term or long term, or what it even relates to for us growing up. But when growing up back in the 80s when we were kids, there were kind of like implied set rules where we had to come home, do our homework, right? So that was the first thing, besides taking our shoes off, of course. Right, in the house.
Yeah, your mom was probably excellent at that.
So that was done, and then I just left. She kind of knew where I was. The town wasn't huge, but it was like I went and roamed the town with my friends. We were playing kickball in the streets, and it was like, okay, I know it's almost time for dinner. I have to go home. And I think it was kind of an unspoken rule, but it was like, you just be home for dinner. That was the rule. Like
the street lights.
Yeah, when the street lights came on, it's time to go home. So that I had trouble that's one that I thought of, but I had trouble remembering what rules were in the house. I even like text my mom and was like, did we have rules when I was a kid? She's like, I don't remember. It was like, yeah, you do your homework or you have to go to bed early or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no, I don't remember rules.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was a different time, but like, did you have a curfew when you were older?
Yeah, the light street. Yeah, the street
No, but I
lights.
mean, when you were, well, I guess you were boarding school.
Well,
so.
I was going to get to that too. You know, because in high school, I was in boarding school, so I didn't live at home.
Right.
So my rules were way stricter, I think, than the norm. Right? Like we were regimented. We had a schedule. It was, this is what you do from this time to this. Like we were all in our rooms at 8:00 until whatever, doing homework. And there were no distractions. We didn't have phones. We didn't have internet. You know, we didn't have.
You didn't have a TV in your room either.
No, we had nothing. So we had to be in our room at our desk in our room doing homework. There was somebody like just in college. There was an RA in the hallway, which was a teacher who lived on campus and was making sure walking up and down the halls, making sure you're doing your homework. You know, we had to, not like us with, you know, go do your homework and we're like, okay, I hope we're doing their kids.
And you
listened
listened because you were not a rule follower.
No, I wasn't. But for something like that, what choice do I have? I can't.
But you weren't doing homework. Probably you guys were probably like listening to music and.
I think we actually were doing like there was no choice.
Okay.
You know? It wasn't like, you know, military school. Right. You know, but there's nothing else to do. I can't like sneak out. Don't know I'm not there.
Did you smoke in your room, in your dorm room?
Well, so I had that too. You asked me also like, where is it? Were there any rules that I broke growing up? And that was a big one. So did I smoke in my room? Yes. What we did was we opened the window. We had, remember tapestries?
Yeah, of course.
We had, you know, so we had tapestries in the
easily
dorm,
lit on fire.
all over the dorm, you know, covering the window. So we'd go behind the tapestry with a fan, you know, a room fan plugged in that goes out the window and smoke into the fan. And it would, I don't get it. Like, it obviously stunk. They knew we would go into the, our bathroom had a shower that, you know, 4 shower heads, just a big room at 4 guys would shower at the same time with vents in the shower. We'd go into the shower and smoke cigarettes into the vent in the bathroom. Like it was nothing. It was like, let's go have a cigarette. And we'd go into the bathroom, into the shower and smoke into the vent. Like, how did we?
And you didn't get caught?
Once of 1,000 times.
But you always had like Saturday morning, like what was it? Like
the work details.
Work details.
Yeah, it was like paint this fence or, you know, rake these leaves or, you know, 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday. We'd have to get up and go do that.
Yeah, that was teaching you karate in secret.
So, you know, that was for
paint the fence.
You know, getting caught smoking or missing your homework this many times. You know, whatever. Stupid, you know, whatever. But I mean, the fact that the shit that we did you think about today.
Right.
You'd be expelled. Like, you would never get into college for something like that, right? You'd be expelled from school.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, you could. It was a different time.
I mean, I keep going on about myself here, but, you know, again, being in boarding school, you know, we had weekends free to do what we want. We'd go into town, and there was a bus stop in the town in Princeton, New Jersey. We would get on a bus, go into New York City for the day at 16 years old. Me and my friends spend a day in the city, go for sushi where they would serve us beer and whatever, you know, we wanted to do, and be back in time that we were supposed to be back in our rooms.
You'd hitchhike back.
Yeah, we would hitchhike to the bus stop.
God.
We would, all this shit. Crazy. Crazy.
I know. It really was a different time. And I think in my house, there, again, like you said, you couldn't really think of any specific rules. There weren't, you know, my mom and my dad, if you've listened to their episodes, they're opposites, right? My dad is extremely, you know, he's regimented, he's responsible, he's got all, you know, he had his whole life laid out in front of him by the time he was probably dating my mom at, you know, when he was 17. And my mom is the exact opposite. She's like a happy-go-lucky, fly by the seat of her pants, you know, like just jolly person. And you know, and for us, I guess, luckily in some sense, my dad worked all the time. So my mom was, you know, home with us. And so her rules were the only rules, right? And those were very few and far between. And she, I think, is a lot like me in the fact of she's not disciplined, she's not organized. She really is an anomaly. My mother, like I always say, she's a very unique human, and so like even there are things that I think about, how many times can I say it about, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas was my first movie in the theater. And, there wasn't really any boundaries as far as content that we could consume. Obviously, it was different from now. There was no YouTube. There were, 4 channels on the television. You had to actually go to the movies to see a movie. Like, you had to have somebody go and buy you a record if you were going to listen to it, or a tape. So, there were a lot more steps to consuming content than there are today. So it was a little bit easier to be lax about it. My mom's one rule was no violence, right? So like, we could watch anything at all, but like I remember the only movie I ever remember her walking out on, and saying it's time to go, was Purple Rain. And that was because I think there's a scene, I have to watch it again, I haven't seen it in so long, but there's a scene where I don't know if he hits his girlfriend or somebody hits his girlfriend. I don't know if it's Prince or somebody else. I don't quite remember. But there's some kind of like, domestic violence. And my mom was like, oh, that's it. We're going. Meanwhile, there had been like 4 sex scenes before that.
Right. Well, and they're happy.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, they were just consensual sex scenes, or whatever. But that was her hard no, was anything with violence. And I get that, I mean, I do think that that there are certain things that I think back on, like my room. I was allowed to decorate my room however I wanted. And like I remember I went to a fair, I don't know, maybe I was 10, 11, and I won this poster. It was like a big poster that it had this muscly man without his shirt on, and at the top of the poster it said, "A hard man is good to find." And it was like on my wall, and I'm thinking back, I'm sort of like, I don't know, maybe that was too far. I don't know what my parents' thinking was, but even my dad, I mean, he would come into my room and see, and I know I had other
crazy,
other similar kinds of posters that I don't quite remember, but I know, like, I definitely had some questionable stuff on my walls, and nobody ever said anything. And
yeah, but wasn't like every poster of the 80s, it was either like hot girls in front of Lamborghinis or guys in like a Speedo, with words like that on the poster?
I guess so. I
feel like that's so 80s,
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that, I was going to say I wouldn't let Mia, but I guess we don't have to worry about that. She's not going to have that poster in her room. But,
she might have the girl with the Lamborghini.
She might. But I would, even for her or the guys or whatever, I would sort of be like, all right, we don't need to go there. Like let's have some boundaries here. And
I think different times. Like I think that was that was kind of acceptable, questionable, maybe yes or no, but it was more mainstream, more norm,
I guess so, because they didn't, and nobody ever said anything to me about it. So that sort of explains a little bit about, how lax they were with stuff.
Yeah. One thing before we go to break, I find it interesting that you and I were kind of similar for different reasons as kids in our houses. We both, at age 12, I was doing my own laundry. I was cooking for myself. And I loved doing it. I was happy doing it. I mean, you were very similar, right? But I think you were doing it because you had to.
Correct.
I was doing it because I wanted to. And I think we were taught that, like, I saw what was happening with my mom in my house, like doing that stuff, and not for the same reason, but I enjoyed doing that. So I did it. Right. And like, I saw it as being the norm. You did it out of necessity because you had to cook for yourself or clean for yourself because no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
But we were both doing that as early as kids for such different reasons, which I think is fascinating because our kids don't do shit.
It's true. Well,
right.
We'll get there.
Okay.
But
all right,
let's take a break.
All right. We'll be right back.
Yeah. So my mom was definitely not strict, and she always played by her own rules. I mean, as far as, again, the content goes and everything, my friends were not seeing the same movies that I was for the most part. And when they would come over, I don't think that I was allowed to show them that kind of thing. But there were certain things that I had wished my mom was. I wish she had sort of followed certain societal rules. Right? She did everything by her own, agenda. And she sort of, time for my mom has never really been it's never really been a guide for her as far as like deadlines and pickup times. And, she's sort of just like, I'm not even sure she knows what time of day it is most of especially now that she's, like in a retirement community and everything.
Well, now she's allowed. I mean, it's okay,
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
I would say it's time and it's fine. Like she deserves like to not know. But I guess,
But she didn't, like pickup times were sort of optional for her. I'd be at field hockey practice and, she never came anywhere on time. And that was hard. That was definitely hard to like be, and this wasn't, nobody stayed and waited with you back then.
Right.
There's no cell phones, I guess you could go to the payphone, but probably like the school was locked. And that always really was hard for me. That frustrated me to the point where like now if I'm going to even be a minute late for the kids, I like have a panic attack.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And nothing pisses me off more than when I am like a minute or two late and I get a text like, where are you? I'm like, oh, dude, you don't even know.
Right.
You do not even know. And so that was tough. And my mom would do certain things like, she would like go on the treadmill with her, I don't think she owned sneakers because she wasn't actually exercising on the treadmill. She was just sort of like walking, holding on with, like casual heels on. And, it was just like her time to watch Donahue or Oprah or whatever. And, so there were certainly things that there were times when I wanted her to kind of be more mainstream and have these disciplined rules. But for the most part, I do think that there were rules. Like we definitely knew that we had to have good manners. We had to be well-mannered when we were places. We had to treat everybody we interacted with, with kindness and graciousness. And both my parents did that. My dad, as a doctor, I think he was known as being just a gracious, kind man. And my mom, just always like a smile on her face and everything. And so I think that we from a young age were very good at interacting with people of all ages and, all different people. So that was one thing I think that was like one of those implied rules that we just knew that when we were out in the world, that's how we treated people. So, and I think that we've sort of passed that on a little bit.
Not a little bit. I think that's our implied rule to our kids. I mean, I think that's what we've instilled in our kids that is so important to us.
Yeah.
As opposed to this is where your sneakers go when you get home or, yes, I mean, we want you to clean your room, but you didn't, but you were, nice to everybody that you met today and, friendly and said hello and treated people with respect. Those are the things.
And I talked a little bit about this on Aaron and Oliver's podcast last week, but the whole religion thing, my dad was very religious, Jewish, and my mom was not religious, but still, sort of obviously like she wanted to raise Jewish kids and she wanted to marry Jewish and everything. But I think because of the differences in how they viewed religion, and again, my dad being gone so much, my mom, I think there were certain things that like for instance, we didn't eat bacon in the house, or we didn't eat bacon, when we were younger.
Until you met me.
Until I met you. Right. I really didn't. Although my my mom's dad ate bacon. So I think when we were with him, maybe we would eat it. But, we didn't do that, but we would eat a cheeseburger, which is not kosher. Or we wouldn't eat ham, but we would eat shellfish, which isn't kosher. So it was like an a la carte kind of religious experience.
It was a non-pork diet.
Right. Pork, I guess, was like the ultimate non-kosher thing. But yeah, and
Doesn't Chris Rock did like an amazing bit on that, didn't he? Like back on Bring the Pain? That was one of his shows, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, he was saying how, back in the day, people didn't eat pork, and it was like, but today we got saran wrap. Like we got refrigerators. It's okay. It's okay to eat pork. Right. I don't remember the bit, whatever. Right. But it was amazing. It was great.
Yeah, and for some people, if that's what you believe, I'm on board. You do whatever's good for you, But I kind of liked the a la carte kind of like religious experience, but there were certain things that I think now I have adopted, or we have adopted our own rules with it. What works, what doesn't.
Well, yeah, I wanted to touch upon that too, and I want to get into that just a little bit more later, because that whole a la carte religion thing I think is so important and so underutilized right now, and I mean forever. But we'll get to more of that later.
Yeah, but also everybody has their own look. If
that's
there are
my
people
point.
Who love that's their life is being
fantastic for them.
Yeah,
like couldn't be happier for them.
Yeah,
and that's my point. Right. So,
right.
But as far as like the religious quote unquote rules for me and my family, we were growing up, my mother came from a very religious kosher home. My dad not so much, but it was Jewish home. But for us it was high holidays. You get dressed up, you go to temple for the holidays, you're home, you do holidays with the family, and that was the most of it. And it was and kind of instilled in us, marry Jewish, and I always thought to myself, I don't love the temple. This is not for me. I don't want to be part of it. Not part of Judaism at all, but like the religious, we talked about this before, so I don't even need to get into all that. But it was kind of very selective and strict at the same point, or at the same time.
They're very strict about the stuff that they observed.
Yeah, so at the same time it was, very lax what it could have been, but it was strict in terms of, what they believed it should be for us.
Yeah. I think I think part of it has to do with society modernizing a little bit. I said in one of the last episodes also that I think that some of it has to do with the fact that politics now takes up and consumes so much of our attention and our bandwidth, as far as like, if you are someone who is political, or look, even if you just are alive, the politics today are a completely different ball game than when we were growing up, and I think that it can be a little all consuming if you're involved in all that, and if you're trying to pass messages on to your kids, there has to be a balance, because it can't just be you just can't be constantly lecturing your kids about everything, and there, on the other hand, there can't be 1,000 rules and 1,000 talks to them, and this is why you need to, this is why we believe this or blah, blah. Like, I think that you have to balance it. And so I think for some people, religion is taking on a different meaning a little bit, and I think depending on where it is in your life, like, I think you sometimes, in order to balance everything, you kind of have to pick and choose a little bit, depending on, look, obviously if you grow up very religious and you're committed to that, then that's great. But I think for some of us who maybe didn't have that same passion about it when we were younger, now sort of we can kind of be like, okay, we can do the a la carte. And there are, look, when I'm in a temple, I don't feel closer to God. I love being in a temple for certain reasons at certain times. The prayers are familiar to me, and, I know that it's meaningful to my dad and everything, but I feel closer to God kind of like when I'm hiking with the dogs, or...
You feel closer to God?
Yeah, like to whatever spiritual force there is. that's when I feel closer to nature and spirituality and whatever, when I'm like in nature, or when we're having coffee in the morning. Like I guess I just feel closer to
your happy place, your being.
I guess so. Yeah.
Or what makes you shine. Like,
yeah.
All those things.
Yeah.
I mean, call it God, call it, Danielle, call it whatever you want.
Right.
It's your place.
Right. So, but at the same time, I do feel close to my ancestors when I am, when we're making chicken soup, or when we are with the family around the high holidays. And I do, I do have those things. I don't fast on Yom Kippur. Our kids don't fast on Yom Kippur, but yet they know what Yom Kippur is about. And we take it as kind of a family day to be together. But, I think that we sort of, but it's interesting. I recently read something that said traditions are just peer pressure from our ancestors, which I thought was interesting. Like.
Right. It sounds very Jewish.
No, I think it's all. I think it's
the guilt, like the Jewish guilt.
Well, you could say that about so many religions. Okay. People will say there's Catholic
only familiar
guilt
with,
and there's, but I think that there is a little bit of, okay, there's just like anything. We kind of have to, some of us want to change with the times a little bit, and society is different and things are different. And, so, I think there is a little bit of like, okay, I'm going to do what works for us. And one day our kids hopefully will retain the things that are important to them from the religion and from the traditions, and let go of what's not important. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've always felt sorry for myself. I feel sorry for my kids. I feel sorry for anybody who celebrates all of these high holiday Jewish traditions, or, holidays, whatever. They're all about pain and suffering and going to temple to atone for your sins. And this is what this awful thing happened to the Jews how many years ago, and this is what we're celebrating. Like, we're not celebrating, we're remembering. We're and I was comparing to my friends who were celebrating Christmas and Easter and like having a great time and having fun. And I was looking at this the other day. In our store, we have seasonal goods that we sell, right? So we have Passover stuff, we have Easter stuff, and I'm comparing the two, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, so for Easter, we have these bunnies, there's chocolates, there's all this fun stuff, and they're going to do egg hunts, and they're going to do... And then I look over at my Passover section, and I'm looking at like these wearable things for kids to like while they're at Seder, Passover Seder dinner,
Like my first Seder.
And it's like make your own headband, and one of them is like boils on someone's hands and frogs.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my like
they try to make it fun in nursery school and everything.
And like these poor kids, like these kids are celebrating Easter, are decorating eggs, and we're wearing boils on our heads.
Right,
like that's what we have.
But there is something to be said for, look, but what my dad would say is, we're constantly reminded Jews are 0.01 of the world population, or I don't know if I have that statistic right, but something like that, and there is sort of this, look, we don't want the traditions and the history to die out. Right. So on the one hand, there is that we need to keep doing this, just like any culture that you want to remember, and you want to, even though maybe it's not still applicable to your lifestyle, you don't want to forget. And so there is that responsibility.
Right. Well, that's why that whole married Jewish thing makes sense, so we can procreate and keep the thing going, right? Because we are such a low part of the population, that part of it might be like, hey, let's keep Jews happening. Let's keep them in the world. And if you don't marry Jewish, we're just going to, phase out. So I get it for that reason, but it doesn't make sense to me for all the other reasons, like find the person you love.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we got to keep the Jewish population happening. So.
Yeah, no, it's all complicated, and especially when our society is modernizing, and there's a lot of other things to consider when finding a partner, and it's you're not just surrounded, you're not in a shtetl or a village with all other Jews. There's a ton of other people.
You just threw out shtetl, by the way.
Shtetl, yeah. My grandmother was from a shtetl. Yeah, it's like a small village.
Right. Okay, let's move on from the religious aspect of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into a little bit of society and the rules and the norms that are happening today. I think it's fun. Let's talk about some that we need to get rid of. Do you have that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What? You want to go one for one? All right, yeah, let's do that. I just have a few things. Yeah, just some.
I just did whatever came to the top of my head too, because there are a lot.
Right,
but I don't want to get into all.
I have some like small basic things to kind of bigger things, and this is where I got into the religion. I just said we should get move away from the religion, but this is kind of where I put this too. But let me start small. Can we get rid of shaking hands? Can that be done? I love the fist bump.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the shaking hands. I see what people do to their hands. I see what people use their hands for in public, all over I don't want to shake your hand. That's it. Yeah.
You want a fist bump.
Just give me a bump.
Right.
I'm happy.
Right. Yeah. Shaking hands is kind of back. It was gone for a little bit.
I mean, I thought COVID was going to get rid of shaking hands forever.
I think it's just been around. I wonder what the origin of that is. We should look that up. That'd be interesting to research.
I looked up shaking hands a little bit, and then it like kind of rabbit holed into other articles and things about if a man is shaking a woman's hand, or if the man approaches the woman first, or if the woman approaches the man, like who extends their arm first. Is it okay to let the woman shake a man's? There
are certain situations where it's definitely not okay to fist bump, like an interview.
Right, you totally be able to fist bump.
I know, but you cannot go into an interview and fist bump.
Right,
you have to shake hands.
Or just,
and how is that ever going to go away?
How about a salute? Like, how you doing?
Oh, no way! I don't want to salute. Just give somebody the finger.
As usual, the Japanese have it right. Just bow.
Right.
Right. No contact.
Right.
No.
Right.
They just know how to do shit.
Right. No, I guess the fist bump is good, or like a what's up?
Yeah,
what's up? Peace. But I don't know that that's ever going to go away, because if COVID didn't do it,
right.
I don't know what will.
I thought it was done.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the handshake.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to do it.
Yeah, I think everybody to some extent. That's the first thing. Kind of. I definitely, when Mia was interviewing for colleges and stuff, absolutely. When the person came out to interview her, I was like, you extend your hand and shake that person's hand.
Yeah, and I'm not a germaphobe.
You can't be like, oh, you know what? Can we fist bump instead?
So that's why
you wash before?
You go in with the fist first before. But I'm not a germaphobe in any way. As a matter of fact, I was the first to, as fast as possible, to take off the mask so I can get the germs and get my immune system going. I am not in any way scared of germs or anything like that. I just think it's gross.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Guys' hands are sweaty and gross, and they pick their nose and their ears and
scratch their balls
in their asshole. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I mean, even like high fives, I guess, are, I don't know. I mean, I like a high five. It's fun.
Right.
But
all right.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay. For me, one thing that always sticks with me is this is sort of, I guess, very specific, but visiting the hospital or someone's home after a baby's been born.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I'm going to, same thing with the handshake. I'm going to assume sort of that COVID has done a little bit of that for us, right? Like hospitals are probably the most strict places as far as letting visitors now and everything. But I'll just never forget, first of all, I had postpartum with Mia. I didn't want anybody near me. My sister, you, our family, whatever, like that was fine. But I'll never forget that after Ian was born, and I had C-sections, so I was in the hospital for 4 days. The day after he was born, they came to take him to the NICU unexpectedly because he was having some breathing issues. Like 10 minutes after they came and took him to the NICU, your parents' best friends walk in to the room and are like, "Where's the baby?" And I'm like, first of all, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, no call, no asking, nothing. And I don't blame them because I think that's just how it has always been.
Right. They're just trying to do the right
that's
thing.
That's just
the
the
nice
general.
thing.
Yeah, that is the, quote unquote,
right
nice thing to do from their generation and everything. But I was like, all I wanted to do was cry. Like, literally, I just wanted them to get out so I could just cry. My baby was just taken to the NICU. I'm already hormonal. I'm, hurting from the C-section. I just literally wanted to be by myself and cry. And now I have to like entertain them and act like everything's fine. And I'm not completely freaked out that my baby was just taken to the NICU. And, I just wanted to be like, can you leave? But of course I couldn't. Right. I had to be courteous and nice. And
I mean, now we would, but when we're 20,
of course,
9 years old.
Yeah. And it's my in-law's best friend. I'm like, I'm not going there. But I feel like, first of all, if you're going to show up with groceries or whatever it is, don't just walk, like do something that's helpful.
Right.
And also, I just think, we need to be like, listen, I totally get it. I want to come see the baby when you are ready. That should be the phrase. You please let me know when you are ready, whether it's in 2 days, 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, whatever it is. You need to be in control of when you are ready because it is a really hard time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like, yes, there needs to stop being this, oh my God, a baby was born, we have to go visit it.
Yeah.
So
no, I
know very specific, but that is something that has always stayed with me that I try to think about of like, you let me know when you're ready. Don't just they literally just showed up at the hospital.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%.
You should have kicked him out. You probably weren't even there. Probably getting a sandwich or something. You probably weren't even there.
Oh, please. I was there. I was sleeping there. I was constantly. I did all the good stuff. I was good.
Okay.
I was a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One that we haven't talked about in a long time, but one thing that needs to just go the fuck away is diamond engagement rings. I'm saying it. I don't know if anybody else is. I don't give a shit.
Every woman waiting for their fiance to propose to them right now, or their boyfriend to propose, hates you right now.
Fucking bad.
Hates you.
They're a scam. They're bloody. There's a competition of whose is bigger. However many months' salary these poor guys are having to like.
Poor guys. It's
well,
not
they're
just
the ones
guys.
buying.
It's also women buying.
Right. Okay. Oh, welcome. Right. Welcome to current times. I understand. I get it. I apologize. People have to spend so many X months of salary to like, and they're not worth anything. They're not. There's no value to these things, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just the whole thing makes no. It was an advertising campaign. That's what this is all about. It's insane. Stop it. If you want to spend money on your partner, do it in a way that they can appreciate. I would think more than a ring on their finger. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I fucking hate them.
On the same kind of subject, don't you think it's time we update vows? Like, it's the same vows from I don't know when. I mean, I know a lot of places have taken out honor and obey, like a lot of religion.
I don't even know what vows are. Like, I don't know.
It's like till death do us part and this and that. Like, I just think they needed to be like, I know a lot of people write their own vows now. A lot of people don't. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing needs to be updated. It is so outdated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I read it or heard it or I'm sure.
Yeah. I feel like we need to have like a, 2.0 vows, just a new, let's just do it over.
Well, especially since more than 50% of marriages end up in divorce. So till death do us part. I mean, it should be like till we decide not to be married anymore. Till us part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I just think in so many ways they need to be redone. Like it's outdated and I love that people write their own vows. I think there's a lot of pressure, but I think it's awesome. But I also think that they need to be modernized and made to fit a more general population now that we have all these different kinds of relationships mm-hmm. and everything. I just think that, oh my God.
And I love, by the way, that what was it? Who did we talk to 3 years ago about millennial weddings, how weddings have
Sarah,
changed.
big kid problems. Sarah Merrill. Yeah, she has a baby now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. Like, that's one thing that I think is incredible that, the millennials were changing weddings, right? From that tradition, like what we had, like that traditional.
But not the vows.
Right. But at least they're taking a step to change a wedding from that formal, traditional, every person wedding that's the same over and over. Like, and they're doing fun, unique. Like, that's at least a change that I think is
definitely.
Great. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. We have more of these, but let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Well, this one I think has started a little bit, maybe, is I think there needs to be a movement that starts to normalize homes looking like people live there.
Yeah, I think that's happening.
A little bit. Well, that was like, Marie Kondo, who is the one who did that, the magic of tidying up.
Okay.
Where like you hold something, if it doesn't bring you joy, you throw it out or whatever. She was like the organizational guru, like the powerhouse of organization. A Netflix show, a book, all this stuff. And she recently came forward, I think like last week, came forward and was like, my house kind of doesn't look like that anymore. Like I have kids now and, I've just sort of adopted this messier lifestyle and I'm happy with that.
Okay. I agree with it to a point. Like I think certain things should be kept, right? No?
I mean, you don't have to have your vibrators sitting out, but like, I think that for people, look, if someone were to call me, which I would never want them to do, and be like, I'm stopping over in 10 minutes, don't ever do that to somebody, but I would freak out. I think I would have people over so much more if I really thought that they could come in and I didn't have to like clean up first. I just want people to walk in. Look, we're 5 people, 2 dogs, 2 cats. I mean,
right.
We don't have live-in help. We don't have we are a normal, regular family. And it is just hard. We both work and, the kids have friends over all the time. And it's just a normal lived-in house. I wouldn't say, we're not hoarders or anything, but it certainly looks like 5 people, 2 dogs, and 2 cats live there, and maybe a few others.
Yep.
But
some people
I
living in the basement. And,
I don't know. I just for me, I'm more comfortable, honestly, in a house that looks lived in. Like I want to walk in your house and see that you are not, a perfect individual. I just feel more comfortable with that environment and person, and that's just my, that's my comfort zone. But I also just want it to be normalized. I got a lot of shit sitting around because I got a lot of fucking live things living in my house.
Right. A lot of things to take care of.
Yeah.
A lot of things to feed.
And a
lot of things to clothe.
And you'll notice I said live because I have spent my time and effort keeping them alive and not so much, getting rid of the clutter on the kitchen counter. I am doing something right because,
the kids are alive.
Voila.
The animals are alive.
Well, yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I just think we need to make it I get it. I know people say that all the time. Oh, you don't have to worry about it. But then I think they walk in and they're like, oh, yeah, this is pretty bad. So I don't know. I just think we need to every show on HGTV and whatever is, a renovation, a perfect looking house, a dream home, blah, blah, blah. Let's normalize just regular homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was recently talking to one of your older friends who used to babysit for her kids. She's a realtor.
Don't call her older.
She's older than us.
I know.
Not old. I didn't say
Mature.
old. Older doesn't mean old.
Mature.
Mature sounds worse to me.
Does.
Older than us.
Yeah, she's
not
older.
Maturer than us. Maybe she probably is.
Yeah.
Most people are maturer than us.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so, she's a realtor and she's talking about listing houses and, staging houses and all that stuff. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, if I ever had to think about this, I don't know what we would do. We can't list our, what it looks like.
Well, and we've done it 5 times. Before in other houses, and it's been a nightmare.
Right. And I was thinking about, this is a lived-in house. And she said, well, that's how it should be. You're not, if you're not listing your
hasn't
house.
seen our house recently.
That's what I said. I was
There's
thinking
no
to myself.
way. There's
like,
no
she
way.
didn't see this.
We could never list our house right now. It would take hours and we've only been here 2 years. It would take hours and days and days, to declutter and get it even to the point where it could be staged.
Right. And
where would everything go? We'd have to rent a fucking storage unit somewhere.
But when she said to me like, it shouldn't be. You live there. That kind of like it triggered something in me like, yeah.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. No, I babysat her kids. I know what lived in means to her. It's very clean.
All right, so I didn't understand properly then, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving up, let's go, I guess, a little bit quicker on the next ones. For me, again, excessive tipping needs to stop, in my opinion. If everybody's working, they should be paid. They should be paid a wage, right? Whatever that is, that's a whole nother topic. But this tipping thing is out of fucking control.
You mean like the iPads at the place where you ordered a bagel and they want you to tip them?
Yeah, whatever. Like, you go order a thing at a counter and they turn over you pay with your card. You want to leave like 80%, 90%, or 3,000%, and they're watching you as you do this, or no tip, but not even like things that, people that not even like in a restaurant, people where they're making a
livable wage?
I don't want to say living wage. Like, I know that's debatable, living wage or not, but they're making an income, right? Whatever. And everybody's you're supposed to tip everything now. Like, everybody, if somebody comes here to do a thing, you're always like, do I tip them? Do I tip them? Like, how much should I tip them?
I'm a sucker now for,
like,
sometimes you go places and they do such creative things. Like, I was at a place recently, a coffee shop, and they said, and they had 2 tip jars, and one was Team Ross and one was Team Rachel. So you put your tip in the one like that I know,
but it's just a way to get a fucking tip.
Okay, but at least they're being creative about it.
I mean, and I don't know, as much as things cost, like, I don't know, like, I just think,
I was Team Rachel.
Enough of this, like, especially like DoorDash, they add on all of it, like, it's the recommended tip is $19, to deliver the thing, and if you don't want to do it, the other option is $17. It's like, what's the fucking difference?
I'll pay them whatever I want, and I didn't have to leave my fucking house. You want $19? I give you $19.
Yeah, but 2 years ago it was $5, and now it's $19. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's getting so out of, like, I think tipping is out of control. Mm-hmm. Can we just pay for the thing and that's it, and we're done? Can we stop the awkward feeling of the tipping? I think, aren't we like all the other countries? They don't do this, right? You go to Europe, it's like you're not supposed to tip. Isn't that true?
They probably make more money.
Okay, fine. So let's do that.
Yeah.
Like,
then wait a minute. But then you're paying on some ends because you have to.
I'd rather go.
You're paying more for your meal.
I'd rather go to a restaurant and pay more for the meal than pay less and have to worry about tipping. Mm-hmm. I'd rather pay more for things that people are supposed to be tipped than worry about that awkward, weird tipping thing that's happening. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think it would become like, I think if you went to a restaurant and the prices were 20% more, we'd all freak out for a month.
Well, they already are.
And then it would become normalized, if you pay more and don't have to worry about the tip.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And then if you're charging more for the meal, you can now, as an owner of a restaurant, I'm simplifying everything. I understand that, but you should be able to pay your staff a regular wage instead of a low wage because they expect tips, right? So the customer's still paying for that salary that the restaurant owner doesn't have to because they can afford it. I get it.
Well, that's like people always say about shipping. Just include it in the fucking price.
Yeah,
I don't want to pay extra for shipping. Just include it in the price. I don't want to know.
That's different. Oh. Because shipping has a fixed fee, right? So you have to pay the shipping provider to ship that thing. Where tipping is not. Tipping is a suggested, right? Mm-hmm. Know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let's stop there. Go ahead. What else you got?
And I guess the last thing. Well, I don't have anything else for that.
Should I go on? I teased the religion thing. Should I go into it or not?
I feel like we went into religion a lot.
All right. You know what? We did the religion thing in the episode. Like, we did enough.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. It's not necessary. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
I wanted to do, if someone asked our kids what our family's rules are, what do you think they would say? Either like directly or implied. What do you think our kids would say our family household rules are?
They would say, what rules? There's rules?
Mm-hmm.
No, we said it before. I think to us, our rule is be respectful to others. That's, be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got. That's all I could think of, because we don't have all those short-term rules. We have them. We don't enforce them, right? So they do, in my opinion, an amazing job with being respectful and being a good person. And that matters to me more than all those other things, which would be nice if they did too. And hopefully they'll learn in time. But I'm happy with the fact of what we've instilled in them with, being a respectful person in society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as far as, look, the content thing is a lot trickier today because, there are certain things our kids, they do watch a lot of, we've shown them movies from, they've seen American Pie and they've seen, like lots of movies that maybe were questionable for their age or whatever. But now the content thing is a little bit harder because we have so little control over what they're watching. So, a little bit, I have said to the kids, especially Ian, because I know where he's headed with content sometimes. And I think he's probably watching a little bit more mature, things about sports or YouTubers or this or that. I just think it gets into territory in their For You page that is probably more mature than they should be seeing.
Right. It starts with the language and then it goes from there to other things.
And they know that there's certain language that they're never allowed to say, with us or even with their friends. And I really hope they stick to that. I know Mia and Jonah do, but I'm hoping Ian does too. But, for instance, he did recently come up to me a few weeks ago and he asked me who Andrew Tate is. Do you know who Andrew Tate is?
I know the name.
He's a former kickboxer who, turned social media influencer. He indoctrinates boys into these ultra masculine, misogynistic assholes. And he asked me who he was. I was so glad because I have said to him, if there's something you see that's questionable, please come and talk to me about it. Mm-hmm. And so he said, who's Andrew Tate? And, and it was good because we talked about it. And, I said, you are never to listen to anything he says or watch, any of those videos or anything. And I explained to him, we researched it a little bit and went online and looked him up and, he saw why he was so terrible. But it is the type of thing where that is something they come across now that we never would have come across when we were younger, right? It was a much, smaller, narrower, more fixed, controllable world of content. And so those kinds of things are scary. And the fact that I want to be loose like my mom and replicate that a little bit, in that I don't care, curse. I don't care, Don't call girls bitches. Don't call, that kind of stuff. No. But, you want to say oh shit or, motherfucker or whatever. Fine. With us. Exactly. Right. There's a time and a place for everything. But something like that was a little bit scary because, Andrew Tate is known for people get sucked into his indoctrination. There's a reason why he's, as big as he is. He's actually been arrested. He was arrested with his brother recently. That's a whole other thing. But, when he asked me that, I got scared because I was sort of oh my God, he's 14 and he's
how's he getting access to it? How did he find out about
and it just showed up on his TikTok. This guy, Andrew Tate, talking on his For You page. And I was just okay, now I want to go in and see what is he looking at and everything, which is obviously something we should be doing from time to time. But, that to me was sort of okay, our boundaries have to be different than what our parents were. Our rules have to be different.
Well, like you said, the access to information and the access to content is infinite at this point.
And so when we talked about it, I said, I'm so glad you came to me and asked me that. You are always to do that. I don't care what it is on the other end, how uncomfortable you think it is. You have to come and talk to me or dad.
Yeah, and I think we're also either lucky or smart or whatever we did. They have a good judge of character. They know when somebody's bad or not,
Right.
I think.
Right.
And they know whatever they're saying, whether their intent is good or bad or real or not. Like, I think, that's a really powerful thing to have when you're viewing this content, that they know, like, oh, this guy's full of shit or she doesn't make sense or, whatever. And I think
they
they're good with
definitely
that.
know our values in the home. I mean, to the point where, like, I have actual posters up, like, saying, about what our values are. And, I know some families make rules and then get them turned into, like, print and put them on their walls. They all do it together. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think that is one thing. If you sort of are proactive about letting the kids know what is acceptable and what is not, by also modeling it, I think, then it's easier. But definitely that scared me when he came to me and was like, "Who is Andrew?" That scared the shit out of me. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we ending on that?
Yeah.
Shit,
I guess so. But no, I do have a question about school rules, by the way. Which some of these
that could be a whole episode.
Make no sense. All right, so let me start with at least one, because this just happened a week ago, and I don't understand. So maybe if you explain to me, I will understand.
I probably don't understand.
All right, so back to Ian again, right? So he just recently was he late too many days to school? Yeah. Was that the thing? And
7 days since the beginning of the year.
That he was late.
February.
Okay,
so 7 days.
Right. So. Yeah, months into the school year. He was late 7 days.
And late could be 1 minute. I could be dropping him off and they closed the doors and now,
Right. So I'm taking him to the bus and he said to me, "Oh, for lunch today I have lunch detention." I said, "Why? What happened? What'd you do?" He said, "Well, I was late to school too many times." I said, "You were late to school too many times so they gave you lunch detention." He said, "Yeah." I said, "What's that going to teach you? That you have to go now sit in a different room and eat lunch? How does that make you feel?" He's like, "I don't know. I just have to sit in another room and eat lunch." What's the...
Well, it wasn't only that. I got a pop-up on my phone in the middle of the day that said disciplinary incident for Ian. And I'm like, oh my God, that you see that pop up on your phone and you're like,
who do you hit? What do you do?
I'm like, what happened? Yeah. I'm freaking out. And then I push it and it takes me into, the parent portal, and it says excessive lateness to school, lunch detention. And I'm like, you just gave me a heart attack over my kid being late too many times. First of all, there's all kinds of transportation issues with the buses and everything. Like there's a shortage of so like sometimes we get there and we think the bus has come and it hasn't yet because it's 20 minutes late or whatever. So I'm like, fine, I'll drive you. Or I went like that scared the shit out of me. And now he has like a discipline file because he was late too many times. He has like a letter in his file. I don't know. It's just all crazy.
And the punishment is he sits in a room and has lunch in a different room. Right. Like I just don't.
And I guess like, did anybody say like, is there a reason you're late so much? Like, is there something we can figure out?
Oh yeah, sure.
I know.
I know. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I had a bunch of school things, but again, we'll save that for another episode or whatever. Is that it? Are we?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just end it there, I guess.
Yeah, rate and review, please. That we would love it. It would mean so much. You could do it right now. It takes just a moment. Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Wait a minute.
Oh, shit.
There was one more thing I wanted to say.
Oh, boy.
You asked, what rules for yourself would you like to adopt and make part of your lifestyle as we keep getting older? So what rules should we follow for the rest of our lives? And I just want to end it off by saying, just keep doing our own thing and what works for us. And I think we're doing a good job of that.
I do,
and I think it will keep getting better.
Yep.
That's it.
I love it.
I wanted to end it off with that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.